There we go. And I will call this meeting to order at 4:32 p.m. I guess the first thing, however, is because Patricia will not be here, it would be great to have a volunteer among the rest of our committee to take this meeting's minutes. Anyone want to take a crack at that today?
I'll do it. I'll try it, if that's okay.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Okay, so you know that one of the most important things is to capture who makes motions and seconds and the results of votes. So the next thing on the agenda, after calling it to order at 4:32 p.m., is to accept the agenda. And I'll entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We've got Greg moving, Ruth seconding. All in favor, please raise your hand. If there are any opposed, then raise your hand. Seeing none, that motion carries. And let's move on to number 3 on the agenda. Now, we do not have the minutes for January 21st meeting from Patricia. She assures me that she will have them for next week's meeting when she will be back with us. So we will defer this agenda item to our February 2nd meeting. And we'll move on to public comment. I see that John Grant has joined us from the public. John, do you have a comment to make at this moment?
Not at this moment, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And let's move right into old business. So, you know, the main thing on our agenda for the next several weeks is planning these focus groups that we've scheduled now for March 12th and March 15th. Prior to the meeting, Ruth sent to Patricia a list of folks who and organizations that might be invited to the social services meeting. You know what, actually, I'm going to share my screen because I did make some updates on the focus group planning document that is in our drive. So bear with me for a moment. All right. All right. Hopefully you guys can all see this screen and this planning document. Show you what it looks like from the top so that you can tap into it yourself if you'd like to. Just recapping at our meeting last time, we agreed that we would hold these focus groups or attempt to hold them on March 12th over Zoom. And that the one different group or different set of people that we'd like to speak with on Tuesday, March 15th, are restaurants, our businesses, basically, restaurant service providers, hospitality, and retail. And the reason for doing that on Tuesday, the 15th, is our opinion that possibly Saturday wouldn't be the best time for those businesses. So getting back now to Ruth's work from last week. Here under social services is the proposed invitation list that Ruth created. The thing that we need to decide on is, you know, is this the list? Is this a good enough list for now until we can see who is willing to come, who's available? Are there any other people that we would like to add? And then what will our process be for reaching out to these people to see if they are willing to come? So I'll give you a moment to just look at that. Ruth, your list is 1 through 12. And I just had that 1, 2, 3, where that's kind of left over from our initial planning, just for consideration if we want them to drop off or, you know, if they might go on.
I see you changed the time on that.
Did I? Was it supposed to be?
At 10, because sometimes on Saturdays I have things to do in the afternoon. That's why I proposed 10.
I'm sorry, I didn't have the minutes, so some of this
Okay.
was just kind of from memory,
Okay.
and so that's my error, and I think no
Okay.
harm, no foul. We
Yeah,
haven't sent the
great.
invite.
I don't know, but I just would like to keep it open just in case. Thank you.
Sure, thanks for bringing that to my attention. Any thoughts, comments? List looks good.
It looks good to me. I mean, I don't have anybody that I would like to add to it, so it looks like it looks good, I think.
Okay,
Okay. So we would invite all these people for social services, see who responds, and then go from there.
Yeah, I mean, we could get 10 or we could get 2. I have just,
Right.
just don't know.
okay.
Well, I bet
Great.
Kent Community Fund will show up.
Yes, I'm sure.
So,
How about the senior center that's on the corner of Elizabeth Street? Am I,
And
is that called Morning Star? Is that what it is?
yeah,
You think I can drive by it every morning?
On mentioning the senior center, at the last meeting, there was, it was brought up for anybody to, if they wanted to reach out to the senior center. I volunteered for that task. I haven't really gotten around to looking into contacting anyone there yet. But anyhow, Ruth, what was the name of the person at Templeton Farms to contact? Her email or their email?
oh, her name is Renee. Oh, is it Chappie? If you go on Kent Village Housing for the Elderly, hopefully you'll find the name.
I looked into, I did a Google search for Templeton Farms in the Kent Village Housing, and it's
Yeah.
all I could see was a generic,
Yeah,
format.
then I would suggest maybe you call Town Hall or Judy Sheridan at this point. She might be able to help you.
Oh, because
Actually, Catherine Backrack knows her well. You could do Catherine.
oh, how do I find her email? Would you happen
It's
to
on,
know?
it's on here, back under Kent Community Fund.
Yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
right
all right,
on my
I'll do that.
screen.
Yeah. Why don't you
Okay.
contact her? She can tell you.
I'll do that. Okay, thanks. Yep.
Yep.
But actually, just looking at this, High Watch is going to be in another group, or would High Watch be in the social services?
My sense is High Watch is nonprofits, only because I don't know. I'm seeing social services as primarily providers that would serve Kent community residents, and the customers of High Watch are, people who come in from other
Mhm.
communities for treatment.
Okay.
So that's how I would draw that distinction. But what do you all think?
But
I would
I'm
agree.
in line. I think that's fair.
Yeah, me too.
So Ruth, I think that you can send an email on the committee's behalf. If you want to sign my name to it, that's fine. But it would be great if you could just send, I don't know if you feel more comfortable, setting it up that, all these people and their emails would be like a BCC. And so, or if you feel like it's fine, if everyone knows, who else is invited and what their emails are, I kind of leave that up to you. I don't really think it's very sensitive information. And
Okay.
I did take a crack at like making a really quick blurb of, like how you would describe something like this. And I can send that to you. And I
Okay.
can also bounce into a screen share with that too, just so you can all see what I was thinking. So, but I gotta find it. Yeah, here it is.
I just lost all of you. I don't know.
Can you see now? Ruth, can you see it?
Okay, yes, no, yep.
So this was, I was starting to craft something because I'm going to be in the same position reaching out to Kent Center school parents. And so, you know, I just wanted to try and make something really short and basic, but this was my thinking.
Yeah, this note, Connie, is going to be going out to say the people that signed up way back in October for the focus groups. They will be getting this form to kind of update them as to what's going on. Is that, you know?
I hadn't really envisioned that. I mean, we know those people want to be part of a focus group, a resident focus group. And so for those 5 people, I think we should just communicate with them and say, it's time, you know, you'd indicated your interest and, you know, we really would still love to hear from you. Are you available on this date? And, you know, like something, it'll be a little bit more personal, but I don't think that we have to have any kind of a formal invitation for them. They've already indicated an interest. This is more like, this is what you would send out to people who've never heard about it before.
Oh, okay. But I mean, no, the only reason why I brought that up was that they signed up quite a while ago. They may, you know, may think that they've been canceled or, you know, that they're not, you know, still being run, you know, going on or whatever. That's the only reason why I mentioned it, because now that there's a new date that's been set, you know, to make them aware of it. That's why I only brought it up. Wouldn't that be?
Yeah, I think that's that. And I think that's why a personal communication is probably best, because it gives us the opportunity to say, you know, we received, you know, we know that you're interested in doing this. We hope that you still are. And, you know, now it's time, and here's what the date and the information are.
Oh, but what I'm saying is that, can this form be sent to them also?
I don't think it's necessary, Joe. I think that a personal communication would be fine. And, you know, to be quite honest, you're talking about 30 seconds of typing. So, you know, my sense was we just reach back out to them about the date.
Oh, so I mean, who would be doing this task anyhow?
Okay, so you guys, does anyone see any kind of glaring errors, or like, is this too informal, or does it need more information? I mean, I really wanted something that, especially for parents, that they could grasp in the 10 seconds that they might have to look at it. I did reach out to the school last Wednesday, right after our meeting, actually, and they are ready to put out in their blast this Friday the invitation. So she's asked me at the school for, you know, a little blurb about it. So that was really my intention in this, and I thought maybe it would work for Ruth too. Although I think it's fine if you want to exercise some creative license to make it sound more like you, Ruth. That's fine too. Before I stop sharing, any comments?
No, that's fine. That's fine, I think.
I like it. It's clear.
Okay. All right. So then let me get back into this, the work plan document, the notes. So Ruth will reach out to this list that she's compiled for the social services groups. Ruth, consider whether there might be somebody at Morningstar, or, you know, but let's see from your initial list of 12 how many we get we get 8 to 10, I think we're good. If we get 4, then we might want to consider changing the date or inviting a few more people. So going back up to the residents, not to make you too dizzy here. As I said, under B, with the parents of school-aged children, I did get in touch with the school. They'll send it out. We'll see who we get back. Hopefully we get some good interest, enough to make a whole group that is just school-aged children. If we don't, we may need to rejigger. We were looking to do 2 different groups of residents. So we have those initial 5. One of them is a parent, so we really have like 4. And so we talked last week about, do we want to have some representation, especially from seniors? Do we want to have some representation, especially from newcomers? How are we going to populate this second group of residents?
So the thing that's going out with from the Kent Center School is an invitation if you're interested in participating in the focus group.
Yes, it will be what I just showed on the screen before we shared.
Right, right. So that'll give us a handful more.
Parents. So that I'm hoping that will help us make this B group. Okay. And as I noted, number 3 under here, Sarah Baird, she let us know in her outreach to us that she has kids at KCS. So I'm going to consider her part of this, this group. But then we have 4 people. So we have more room in the second residence focus group. And we talked about getting seniors and getting newcomers to town. So that's the question, is how do we find people, especially in those groups? Do we still think that's a good idea? What's the process?
Well, at this point, we're not sure well, we don't know how many people are going to respond to the invitations. So can we just set up, well, we have a work plan now. Seeing how many responses we get, and then afterwards go and then say, oh, okay, well, we do not have enough, people for that group. Can we just consolidate, say, the seniors with the resident or the
That will
parent?
not work because we have not invited. We have these 4. They indicated some interest before. We have not invited Kent Center School people, but when we do, that's a subset. That's a group that we know will be well represented, and nobody besides Kent Center School parents will get that blurb. So what we're talking about now is, we don't have, there hasn't been an invitation, and we don't have a pool of people right now, and we won't get anyone else unless we ask.
Excuse me, Connie, I've got to go. So, excuse me, I'm gonna run.
I think we did what we needed to with respect to you today. If you
Okay,
reach
that's
out to
great.
those people, how it goes, that would be super.
Okay, I see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ruth.
Bye-bye, guys.
I guess what I'm saying is that afterwards, judging by how many responses we have, maybe the residents can be placed into another focus group. That was the only reason why I brought that up.
I'm missing something.
Well, my understanding is that you have certain people that may duplicate one group with in other words, overlap with one group with another. Is that what we were discussing?
No, not really. We want more residents. We need to fill out that second residence group. So we need about 8, maybe 8 to 10 more people to invite.
Oh. I don't know
So we
how,
could just do on the page or on the Facebook or whatever, but at that point, we will be taking whoever we get. And so, and that's fine. But if we did want to specifically try and hear from people who were seniors or people who were new to town, I'm just wondering if there's something else
So-
we want to do. And
All right, so with
if
the
it's not-
with the seniors, is the Kent, there's a person in charge of the senior program for the town of Kent. Does she have a contact list for seniors in town?
that, Craig, that whole area is like in flux now because Leah Polero has left and there's an acting director that stepped in for a while until they hire a permanent person. So I don't, as far as being able to get you know, their papers or documents or whatever, who knows?
We just need a way to reach out to them. That's like
Yeah, and actually, if I'm remembering correctly from last week, there was a distinction made between, you know, seniors who may be customers of social services in town and just people who were older, because it was our observation from the survey responses that, you know, I guess it was something like more than 50% of our respondents on the survey were over 65. So we kind of felt like we needed to, you know, if we were going to elaborate on the data we were getting from the survey, no, it was, I guess, 45% are over 65, and 68% of our survey respondents were over 55. So if we really wanted to like get more information about what we were hearing in the survey, then, you know, we would want to draw from the same population. But maybe it will just happen naturally. You know, maybe the best we can do is just put a call out, you know, for with an open invitation, especially given the population of our town. I really don't want to get too mired down in this because, you know, it just doesn't, I don't know, unless the obvious idea is occurring to us, I feel like we should maybe just issue an open invitation in one of Gene Z News's and on the social media accounts and on the website, and, you know, see who we get and when we get enough. Stop.
Yeah. I agree with
okay,
that.
and then we would get the newcomers the same way.
I think so. Yeah.
And is there public information that the town has on people, you know, Joe and Jane Smith just built a house, and so we know they're a new resident. Anything that would allow us to sort them out and reach out to them?
We have information on sales of homes and building permits, but that doesn't necessarily mean that those people are living
Right.
here.
Right.
And I'm not sure that's a very fair way to glean information.
Well, I mean, if we could, so new on the tax rolls or something like that? Or just what if it's public information?
Well, it is all public information, but
Mm.
it doesn't, they don't fill out a questionnaire saying that they've become residents and they're building a home. They just, you know, the builder takes out a building permit, and it's usually in the the builder's name or that kind of thing. So I think it might be difficult to get easy information that way.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So I think the follow-up there is to ask Jean to put in her newsletter something akin to that blurb, and to put some kind of a flashy announcement on Town of Kent and Kent Community Facebook pages, and see who we get to supplement these 4. I will send a personal email out to the people 1 through 5 under A, and tell them that the date has been set and we hope that they still have interest, and then we'll see what progress we make for next week. Service providers, so moving down to retail and restaurants and service providers. I did reach out to the Chamber of Commerce last week, got a response from them, but exactly what they propose to do is still pending. So basically I asked them, I told them about our conversation, which was, we think that you might be better able to pick out a list of chamber members within these 2 categories. What do you think? And I reached the new employee at the chamber, who's very sweet and responded right away, but she said that she felt she needed to check with the leadership on this. So we'll see what we get back. I did note that there's a chamber meeting on February 7th at 6 p.m., which I will most likely be at, but lots of people have meetings on February 7th. So let's move down a little bit further. Let's skip over nonprofits for a moment, because I think that one does deserve some further discussion. We talked about social services. It's going out of the order on the agenda here, but we also talked last week about this idea of having one-on-one meetings with certain entities. And I have put notes here that Barbara, thank you very much, arranged to be on the agenda for the February 7th meeting of the Kent Volunteer Fire Department. Patricia did as she said she would, and she reached out to the IGA, had a lengthy conversation, and we'll write up her notes on that. We had the idea that we would reach out to the private schools. Glenn, I don't know if you had a chance to do that yet.
I did. Yeah, sorry. I did speak at length with the Marvelwood CFO, and I have calls into both Kent and South Kent. I expect to talk to them at some point in the next day or two. So I have a very good idea about Marvelwood, and I will with the other 2 groups. Now I'll write notes about that.
Okay, great, thank you. And then my question was, do we still need to talk one-on-one with the community fund, having Ruth as a member, having them be part of the focus group? Do we still need to reach out to Judy Sheridan if she's going to be part of the focus group? I think that we can, I think that was duplicative.
Yep, that's that point.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I heard you, Craig.
But it's redundant, so there's no point in doing the one-on-one also.
Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna, I guess I don't know how to do a strike through. Okay. All right, so the one remaining focus group that we had thought we would do is nonprofit groups. And we kind of need to build out this list. I'm willing to do that as somebody who is a member of a nonprofit, but I also don't have to be that person.
So just blowing through the list group, we have a reach out to the Chamber of Commerce already. HVA basically sent us their proposal, which is to all the other towns. I think we just run with that. We have a note from Kent Memorial Library. Kind of, you could probably represent Kent Land Trust. So then we'll just reach out to the remainders. How big is Kent Historical Society? Does anyone know? Is it?
I'm a member of that, and the only information that I can give you, Craig, is that it's been around for a while. They they had gotten a grant I had seen not too long ago, and there hasn't been any, they haven't submitted anything to the, to the committee. And, what other information were you,
Like, how material is it? Is it like 4 people or 120 people?
oh, and their membership numbers?
Yeah, and then just what they do. I don't know very much about it other than the building.
Well, they, as I say, they have been around for a while. They, every once in a while, they'll do an exhibit. They had one last year. They're not necessarily that active here in Kent, but they have been around for a while, and
Okay, so I mean, Joe, since you're in the association, why don't you just have a conversation and see if
Sure.
there's a need and if it's worth exploring further. It sounds like they're probably okay. But
I could contact Marge Smith, I believe, is the director. I'm pretty sure, I think I have her email. I could send her an email about the focus groups and see what happens.
Yeah, my sense is it would be better to do a focus group than a one-on-one, because there are other nonprofits. I don't even know that I hit them all on this list. This was just beginning to build it out because we hadn't really spoken about it. But my sense is that there is every likelihood that that the Kent Historical Society was impacted in some way by COVID, maybe in more than one way. And that it would make sense to hear from them as well as, our other nonprofits in town. And so, just looking at this list, I'm noticing like Sloan Stanley's not on there. I mean, there are groups that are long established in our town that, that we haven't heard from otherwise, that I think that we should endeavor to hear from. So, I mean, why don't I try and build this list out a little bit more? You guys are welcome to, to wiki it with me, jump into this document and write down your ideas. Just because I do think this is an important sector. And it certainly is a sector that is called out specifically by the Arpa final rule, in terms of what the feds thought, this money might be useful for. Barbara, did you have something? No. Okay. Okay. All right. So returning down to the one-on-ones for the moment, though, there's something that is not here, and that is that we also were thinking that someone should talk to the KCS PTO. And I did establish that they have monthly meetings. I have a contact email. But I was hoping, Craig, either you or Joe would agree to be the one-on-one to talk with the PTO.
To what? Do the one-on-one with the Kent Center School parent teachers?
Yeah.
Okay.
They have a meeting. It's every month.
Also
can
go
send
to
you the
them.
information.
So you're looking for someone to go to their monthly meeting and discuss what we're doing with them?
To reach out to them and get a sense of what the needs of the, what the needs of the schools have been, what they've observed, school children. I mean, it could, I would anticipate based on our discussion last week that it could be a pretty broad-ranging conversation. Really from anything, anything from how the school had to respond and infrastructure and, different kinds of changes and procedures that they put in place in response to COVID safety measures, distance learning, but also, what the experience of the children has been. If you look at that final rule summary, there were some suggestions about tuition needs of children that fell behind during COVID, about mental health needs of children that fell behind during COVID, about, supplemental services that schools might provide based on the impact of COVID. And then, of course, we wanted to understand as well a little bit about what COVID assistance the schools have already received and how ARPA aligns or might work with that.
And you're thinking, so we would go to one of their regular meetings and just have that discussion as a part of that.
Unless you think it would be easier to ask them to call a special meeting. I don't really know how their meetings work, how full the agendas usually are. I don't know if I don't know if they have room for a 20-minute, half an hour conversation, in their regular.
And then does the teacher or the, from my PTO prior life experience, are the teachers active in it, or is it just parents? Like at a meeting?
I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, there's the leadership, they have a leadership structure, just like, many organizations do. And although a parent, I have to admit that I haven't been incredibly involved with the PTO over the years, unfortunately. So
it's just in Greenwich. In Greenwich, it's all parents. Like it's a PTO in name only. It's a parents thing. But okay, so we'll start there.
Okay.
I just want to make one quick mention about in regard to like the educational ARPA funding and so forth, is that there is a separate funding for educational needs that ARPA does, that is covered. In other words, the educational system is getting separate funding for pandemic recovery needs. So I just wanted to mention that, before,
And I think that was
Yeah.
in the Google Drive also, so that
Yes.
they mentioned that they'd already gotten money prior to this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I think it's really important for us to know about things like that, but I also have learned over time that it's so much more complicated. For example, getting the library's letter, talking about the additional improvements that they'd like to make, made it clear that the aid that they already got, wasn't enough. And, that they still had things that they thought would be really useful in serving the town that they would like to do. And so, enough so to make a request of us. So I think that we probably shouldn't assume that just because there was funding available that it covered all of the needs of our schools and school children, but let's find out.
Right.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So I think that kind of takes us through our agenda this week, believe it or not. I think for next meeting, we do need to get those invites out there, and we need to know who's coming, and we need to know that, these focus groups are happening. But I think that for our next meeting, one of our main goals should be to start crafting the questions so that we've got, we've got a good sense of how these focus groups will be conducted. And Joe mentioned last week that he may be attending one of the library's focus groups. I am also, so we can kind of have our ARPA mindset on as we watch how it's done and performed, and see what learning we might glean from that. But I'm thinking that a template that at least would have like the beginning information, like an icebreaker, an intro, would be helpful. And then I think depending on which group we're working with, that we may want to customize the questions. And it's, as Patricia told us, it's usually like 2 or 3 questions. Like it's really not that many, because you primarily want to really hear deeply from the folks that you've convened in your focus group.
Connie, a couple of things. One thing about in regard to the questions for the focus groups, if you want to put it up on the screen share now, way back in September when we were talking about our survey, I came up with some questions to go into the survey, and if you or the rest of the committee want to like recycle some of these questions into the focus group, I mean, that's a thought right there.
Yeah, well, I think, you know what, I would hope that we all have a chance to go back to the survey, to think about what we're learning from the survey, because the focus group should be a way to get a little bit more information about certain things that we're seeing from the survey data. So I'm trying to think of what an example of that would be. Here's an easy one for the social services group. We got a lot of information on the survey about the financial impact to people because of loss of jobs or loss of wages or increased expenses. We got some pretty good information about, where they had, financial damage. But then in the comments, there were several people who talked about how anxious they were and the mental health impact and, the stuff that wasn't in our survey. And that's what we really need to think about is like, if we are hearing from 50% of our respondents that they had no impact, what does that mean? If we are hearing from certain of our respondents that, they didn't have the impacts that we listed, but they still felt very impacted, then what do we need to know in order to form any kind of assessment of their needs, basically, our charge.
Well, the second thing that I wanted to bring up, since this meeting is a special meeting, which you'll add more things to the agenda. Now, this
No,
The opposite. It's the opposite.
it's the opposite. We can't add anything new to the agenda.
to this agenda, but the next one we could.
Not until February 16th, was it? Yeah, I think so. You have to give a month's worth of notice before your regular meeting schedule can kick in. So I noticed the number of regular meetings, but we had a waiting period. So we're at special meetings until then.
Well, the reason why I brought it up is because the survey is going to be over soon. I believe it's January 31st. So afterwards, we have to start thinking about, when everything or the results are compiled and discussed, and how we want to go about presenting the results, to the community. I'm mentioning it now to be added to the agenda in the future.
Do you think that we should talk about that next week, though, or should we let that period expire and then pull the survey results and talk about it when we're on good footing for our focus group?
Well, I'm mentioning it because the survey is going to be ending next week, correct?
I don't know that we ever decided that. I think we kind of figured we could keep it open indefinitely if we had a few more responses trickle in.
Well, anyway, at some point it's going to end. And, you know, at that point, then we have to start a plan to compile the results and then to present it, you know, to the town, you know. So that is coming, that will be coming up soon, I would think. I mean, we cannot have the survey going on indefinitely. So when we get to that point, it's gonna, you know, we need to plan ahead of time and have that brought up at a meeting. So I would say most likely sometime in February. Does that sound logical?
Yeah, I
That's
think before
fair.
we start getting into the one-on-ones, you know, we could wrap up the survey part of it. That makes sense.
So some of the one-on-ones have already happened.
Well,
I
but
don't
I'm
think
sorry,
we-
before we get into the focus groups.
Yeah, I think, Joe, I think we will have room to begin talking about that very soon. So let's get our invites out just so people know that we are hoping to do these focus groups. And then you know, absolutely, this group will be discussing the survey responses, our conclusions about them, and how we intend to, you know, to report them. The results, report what we found, and get them out to the public. So, so yeah, no
then
doubt
just
that will.
On the
several meetings.
one-on-ones, on the one-on-ones, the, you know, since we did get the incoming letter from Kent Falls Brewing, do we want to do a one-on-one with them? Or just let them be part of the Chamber of Commerce group? Focus group.
Yeah, I don't think we need to do a one-on-one with like everybody. And, you know, we can talk about whether, you know, whether we should, but I think that the idea was we were seeing the survey responses come back and there was a lot of support for supporting our fire department. For the IGA, you know, the discussion was about, you know, who are the frontline workers? Who are these people who, you know, continue to work in a way that expose them to the public in order to provide needed services to the community. So there were special reasons why we wanted to do that one-on-one outreach. It wasn't just to any business in town.
Okay. And then I noticed in the Google Drive that there was a few iterations of a letter that was going to go to within the town of Kent for department heads who had needs. Has that letter been sent, and what the responses?
Mm-hmm.
It has been sent,
Yeah.
and we have no responses, or?
Yeah, just to
Hang
answer,
on, so do we have responses to the letter?
yes, we have.
We have no
And where-
responses.
Wait,
From
the
Within the
education,
town?
the education department responded by sending a request.
Okay, and are those in the Google Drive also, all the responses?
Yes, it is, right? Correct, Con?
Did we get anything from
Yeah.
sewer or?
No.
No.
It really was not, I would say you'd have to go to the minutes of each of the departments to see if that was on their agenda, as far as reading the letter to the committees. I know I had seen it on planning, and I believe the planning and zoning and inland wetlands, that there was mention of an ARPA letter. But as of, you know, as of now, the only letter from a town department has been from the education department. It's in
And,
Google Drive.
Donna was looking for Chromebooks for land use.
Yes, that's in Google Drive also, because I check Google Drive every so often, you know, just to see if there's anything that I've missed not seeing there. And as far as I know, that's the only response. You know, if there's no response there, then I would assume there's no need for any request.
Okay,
Yeah, well, also remember, we weren't exactly saying, you know, make a proposal to us for funding, because that's not our job. It's not our charge to allocate any of the funds. So it was more like an invitation to tell us about what's on their mind, ARPA-wise, and what their needs might be. So, you know, I think that if any of those boards did find, you know, especially given what we might learn from the town, you know, a need to make a proposal to the Board of Selectmen once we've delivered our report, that they would probably get a second bite at that apple. I mean, it was never presented to them as, you know, let us know now, or you'll never get to talk about this again.
And so then when we're all done, we're going to give a report to the first selectman that says, here are the people with needs. We're not going to be allocating $800,000.
Nope, we will not.
I mean, I knew that, always knew they made the decisions, but we won't even make a recommendation on priority or just here's
We may make a recommendation, but we will not be allocating any of the money.
no
It
dollar
will not be.
attachment to anything.
Well, that question that you just asked, Craig, is okay, that all has to do with the charge, right, Connie? I mean, it's the way the charge is written. That's how I understand things. And for us to, and the whole purpose of this committee is to write a responsible report to be submitted to the selectmen and the Board of Finance. Now, to say to them, these are the needs that this committee has come up with, I would think that they, you know, that they would look at that and say, well, how did you arrive at these needs? You know, what did you use to back up those needs? Is what, you know, and then that's the way I look at it, is that how, when you're giving needs, how do you justify you know, those needs that you're presenting?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we really can't get into discussion on
No.
what our report will be, but I don't think we're talking about a 2-pager here. I think we're talking about, you know, a full report of everything that we've done and will continue to do. And, you know, we might make recommendations. We will certainly present the needs that we've come up with, and it'll be our hope that, you know, the Board of Selectmen doesn't, you know, toss it behind their shoulders. We'll really take it seriously, but it will not be our responsibility to actually allocate the money. All right.
Okay.
Anything else for? Okay.
All right. Have a good
well,
weekend.
We have our marching orders, so I look forward to seeing you all next Wednesday. If you like snow, enjoy it. If you don't like snow, I don't know, make a fire, make some soup, whatever, stay inside.
Bye-bye.
Have a great
Everybody, thank you.
week, everyone.
Be warm, stay safe.